We are getting a clearer picture now of the extent of the earthquake damage in Turkey and in Syria. The World Bank estimates more than $34 billion in direct physical damage in Turkey alone. That is equal to about 4% of Turkey's GDP in 2021. The World Bank says it will cost twice as much to rebuild. Nada Bashir joins us live from Istanbul. And it's not just the cost, it is the challenge that Turkey faces in rebuilding in such a wide area. The extent of this really is hard to imagine, isn't it? You've been on the ground now for nigh on, 3 weeks. Just describe how difficult this is going to be.
I mean, a challenge is an understatement. The scale of the destruction is huge, to say the least, and the Turkish government is now facing mounting pressure over finding those long-term solutions. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who've been displaced by this earthquake, huge swathes of land which have been completely flattened across southeast Turkey. And for those buildings that haven't collapsed, they are simply too unsafe to return to. And that is the key question now, the safety of these buildings. A lot of reports around building amnesties which were offered to those where buildings didn't meet the safety standards, whether or not the Turkish government should be held accountable for those actions. And that is the concern as the government now begins to oversee a rebuilding process. Now, President Erdogan has already pledged to rebuild the affected areas within 1 year, although many are saying it could take far, far longer than that. And we are already beginning to see that work underway in parts of Gaziantep. Excavation work has already begun for the construction of more than 800 residential buildings for those that have been displaced by the earthquake. The government says it's planning to get underway with building in March for another 30,000 apartments. So there are efforts already underway to create these permanent homes for those that have been displaced. But of course, that has also drawn backlash because we are hearing criticism of the government now, saying that it is simply too hasty for the government to begin thinking about rebuilding in these areas. We're still seeing bodies being pulled out of the rubble. The destruction is so vast, and there are real concerns around the safety of these areas, considering that they still lie on these fault lines, that we're still seeing these powerful aftershocks. And now the Union of Engineers and Architects here in Turkey says there needs to be further geological investigations to ensure that these areas are safe. But of course, the government is under this immense pressure because of the scale of the displacement. And we visited some of those camps, and there are dozens of these camps now dotted around southeast Turkey. People living in tents, many of them sharing those tents with numerous people, 3 generations in some cases, and they are in desperate need of long-term solutions, of long-term shelter. Some of the families that we met still don't have tents, they still don't have shelter. And of course, with elections looming, that pressure on the government is only expected to grow. Becky?